Welcome to Saints Sodality, a new podcast where we dive deep into the life of saints.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, our goal is, to take this stack of really personal source material we have and kind of pull out the core knowledge. We're diving into these testimonial accounts about Padre Pio, Francesco Forgione, focusing specifically on, his reputation as this extraordinary converter of skeptics, people who really felt outside of faith.
Yeah, and I think it's important we establish the context right away. The sources we're using here, they're basically collections of anecdotes, letters.
Right.
These aren't like neutral biographies. They're firsthand reports from individuals, often, quite hardened atheists, maybe Masons, sometimes established intellectuals, who are claiming they experienced something supernatural.
A
trigger that just fundamentally changed their beliefs, their lives.
That definitely sets the stage for how dramatic some of these claims are. And maybe we should start right with the source itself. Alberto Del Fonte. He compiled a lot of these accounts.
Good idea.
He himself says he was a former Mason, an atheist, but he writes this incredibly powerful statement about his own conversion. Claims Padre Pio gave him life under all aspects.
Wow.
Leading him from, believing in nothing to actually attending Mass, receiving the Blessed Sacrament. Happily, he says.
And that narrative, that radical shift, it's really the thread that runs through all of this. What's often compelling is that the change wasn't always like a slow persuasion. Sometimes it was immediate, an impossible demonstration of knowledge.
Okay, so let's turn to one of those, maybe the ultimate skeptic. Mr. Luigi di Mercurio.
Ah, yes.
From Benevento. The source says he believed in nothing. I mean, it even details how he apparently spat on a holy picture of St. Lucy his wife revered.
Yeah, quite hostile.
Definitely. He admitted his visit to San Giovanni Rotondo back in 1925 was just curiosity. And to deceive his wife, he was basically there to watch and maybe mock.
But his personal account, it just flips instantly. He'd never laid eyes on Padre Pio before, right? Yet the moment he faces him, he describes feeling forced by a superhuman force. Forced to kneel down right there and kiss his habit.
He couldn't resist it.
Said it was physically impossible. Described it as if two strong hands forced me.
That's a powerful, immediate reaction. But, doubt lingers, right? He needed proof, something undeniable.
Exactly. So he comes up with this internal test, something only he could possibly know. He even made a bet, apparently, with his friends. A bottle of Strega liqueur.
Okay, what was the bet?
He secretly demanded that Padre Pio had to be the very first person to greet him the next morning. It was his name's day, the Feast of San Luigi, June 21st.
Ah, so if Padre Pio greeted him first and called him by name.
It would prove the Padre knew his name, Luigi, or Gigino, the familiar version, without ever being told. Proof of some kind of special knowledge.
And the source material, does it describe that morning?
Oh yeah, it really captures the tension. Him walking towards the monastery, feeling anxious, his 12 companions, maybe deliberately, maybe not, they all avoid greeting him. He's apparently thinking, what a stupid test I set up.
Right, setting himself up for disappointment.
And then Padre Pio comes out after Mass, smiles right at him, and says,
What did he say?
Luigino, my greetings to you. Today is your name's day.
Just like that, Luigino.
Just like that. The testimony says De Mercurio just froze, couldn't speak, started weeping with joy, and realized, you alone know what I have thought. That secret internal pact, that was it for him.
Wow. You alone know what I have thought. That's quite something.
It is, and it's this consistency, this apparent ability to access really private, intimate information that kind of holds these accounts together. And it escalates. Sometimes it wasn't just a private bet, it was someone's whole public identity.
You mean Attorney Festa, the Mason from near Genoa?
Exactly, Festa. He was apparently pretty hostile towards priests and monks, had little sympathy, as the source puts it.
So why did he go, if he was hostile?
Well, he arrived skeptical. He wanted to investigate the stories himself. But the investigation, it seems, ended before it even started.
How so?
Before Festa could even say anything, Padre Pio reportedly walked up to him and just asked point blank, "What? You here amongst us? But aren't you a Mason?"
Whoa. Just like that. No introduction.
Apparently not, and the detail. Padre Pio supposedly knew not just that he was a Mason, but his specific job within the organization.
Which was?
To combat the church on political matters. That's what the source quotes.
Okay, that's incredibly specific. How did Festa react? I mean, a prominent guy, leader in his group, Why would he just abandon everything based on that?
Well, the sources suggest it was the shock, just being known instantly and deeply like that. It was the catalyst. He confessed, converted right then and there.
And that was it.
Not quite. There's a follow-up. About 4 months later, Festo was apparently about to face some kind of sanction from his old Masonic lodge.
For converting.
Presumably. And right at that moment, he gets a letter from Padre Pio, and it ends with this line: "Do not blush about Christ and his doctrine. The time has come to bring the fight into the open."
Wow. So a direct instruction to confront them.
Seems so, and Festa did. He confronted his former group and became a Franciscan tertiary, a lay member basically dedicated to their ideals.
Okay, so we've seen this power of like immediate personal knowledge, political knowledge. Let's shift gears a bit. It wasn't always about instant shock, was it? Sometimes these conversions followed years of searching, philosophical struggle.
Absolutely. That's a really important point. The case of Ferruccio Capinetti is a good example of that. More of an intellectual crisis.
Right, Capinetti. He'd been searching for truth for years. And the source says he was nauseated by materialism, like the ideas of Hegel.
Yeah, he couldn't accept that incredible works of art and thought Dante, Leonardo, Michelangelo were just, chemical, physical combination.
That's understandable. So when materialism didn't work for him, where did he look?
He dove into the occult, esoteric stuff, studied Rudolf Steiner, Annie Besant. But it didn't resolve anything for him, left him with the same doubts, maybe even more restless, just constantly seeking.
Until he met Padre Pio. What happened then? Was it like a debate?
The account describes it as more of a demolition. Padre Pio apparently took his existing theories one by one and dismantled them, with immense profundity of thought, it says.
So, not just dismissing them, but engaging intellectually.
Exactly. Engaging and, according to Capinetti's testimony, leaving him without counter-arguments. He felt he finally saw the true light and found this intellectual peace that years of searching elsewhere hadn't given him.
That kind of intellectual struggle, it seems to echo in another case, too. Professor Ciccacci.
G. Felice Ciccacci, yes. A well-known academic, spent 40 years studying comparative religion, especially Eastern faiths.
And this led him to a pretty controversial idea for the time, right?
Very. He came to believe Christianity was basically just a derivation of Brahmanism and Buddhism, a kind of heresy from the church's perspective.
So how did his reported conversion happen? Was it an immediate confrontation like Festa's?
No, much slower. More like, well, the sources describe it as a sustained, multi-stage spiritual intervention, almost a siege.
Okay, starting how?
It began with dreams. Simple dreams where Padre Pio just appeared, telling him, "Come and see me."
But he didn't go.
Not initially. So the experiences apparently escalated.
Escalated how? We mean more intense dreams.
More than dreams. The account claims that one sleepless night, Ciccacci actually saw Padre Pio enter my bedroom.
Physically saw him in his room.
That's the claim.
Yeah.
And this vision told him, if you cannot come, write.
So he wrote.
He did. And after he wrote, there was a final stage. While praying, he reportedly heard an internal voice, a command, go to church and pray.
And did he?
Yes. And while in the church, praying, he heard this inner whisper again. It presented the stark choice. Faith is not to be argued over. Either you accept it with your eyes closed, or you reject it. There is no middle way.
Wow. A direct ultimatum from within.
Exactly. And that forced choice, according to his testimony, led him to reject what he then saw as the egoism and the indifference to human suffering of the Asiatic religions, and brought him back to his faith of my fathers.
So these stories, they really span skepticism, politics, deep philosophy. Even geography seems irrelevant sometimes. But you mentioned the confessional. That seems like a key area where these claims of special knowledge happen frequently.
Extremely frequently, and often with incredible detail. The account of Federico Abresch is maybe one of the most specific.
Abresch, he was a German convert, right? But still kind of struggling with faith. Involved in occultism, theosophy.
That's him. And he went to confession with Padre Pio with a very specific plan in mind.
A plan for confession?
Yeah, he intended to tell Padre Pio he'd been conditionally rebaptized, thinking that wiped his slate clean, basically. But he figured he'd review his whole life from childhood anyway, just to be thorough.
Okay, so he planned to start way back.
Right. But Padre Pio apparently interrupted him immediately, before Abresch could even launch into his planned speech.
Interrupted him with what?
By telling him precisely when his last good confession was. Padre Pio supposedly said, "Yes, you made a good confession that time when you were returning from your wedding trip. Let us leave out all the rest and begin from there."
His wedding trip. not childhood.
Exactly. Completely bypassing Abrecht's plan and pinpointing a specific, much later event. Abrecht was, as the source puts it, bowled over.
I can imagine.
And then Padre Pio apparently proceeded to list Abrecht's mortal sins, including specifics like the number of times that I had missed Mass, and gave him this really severe rebuke, something like, "You have launched a hymn to Satan, whereas Jesus, in his tremendous love, has broken his neck for you."
That's intense.
Very. Abrecht later insisted there was absolutely no way Padre Pio could have known about that specific confession from his wedding trip. It was long forgotten, totally private. For Abrecht, this was undeniable proof of a gift. Scrutiny of consciences, they called it.
And this gift, as you call it, it wasn't just limited to face-to-face encounters in the confessional, was it? There's the story of the engineer from Bologna.
Yes, the engineer. That one's unique because it started years before they ever met. 8 years, the account says.
8 years before.
How? He had this recurring dream, a dream of a friar he didn't know with stigmatized hands. And the gaze of this friar in the dream. It wasn't threatening, but it acted as a constant internal reproach, a summons. Made him feel deep remorse for his life, which he described as focused on pleasure-seeking.
So for 8 years, he's haunted by a dream of someone he doesn't even know exists.
Apparently so. And then, when he finally decides, okay, I need to find out who this is, and plans a visit, he gets blocked.
Blocked how?
Tries to take the train journey, gets suddenly violently ill just after leaving Bologna, has to turn back. He felt, that something was preventing him from doing this good thing.
Wow, so the influence was there, but the meeting was delayed. What happened when he finally did get there, years later?
When he finally arrived, the story goes, he found Padre Pio waiting in the parlor, standing in the exact pose, the exact position he'd seen in that dream 8 years before.
Whoa, that must have been jarring.
You'd think. The engineer apparently blurted out, "Father, I've known of you for 8 years."
And Padre Pio's response? Did he acknowledge the dream?
He did. And the delay and the illness. His reported reply was, "And a lot of good it did you. You were taking your time. Change your life, my son."
Goodness, you were taking your time.
Yeah.
It's like he knew the whole 8-year saga.
That was the engineer's conviction, that his entire internal struggle, the dream, the delay, it had all been known.
These transformations, they weren't always private moments either, were they? Sometimes it happened very publicly, like with the writer Pitigrilli.
Segre.
Right, Pitigrilli. He was a pretty well-known comic writer at the time. Apparently, he attended Mass one day, just hiding in the crowd, completely unknown to Padre Pio.
Just another face in the congregation.
Exactly. And yet, Padre Pio suddenly stops, turns to everyone, and says something like, "Pray, brethren, pray fervently for someone who is here among you today, who is in great need of prayer."
Targeting someone specific but unnamed. And then he adds, "One day he will approach the Eucharistic table and will bring many with him who have been in error like himself."
Wow. A public prophecy almost. Did Pitigrilli take that personally?
He absolutely did. He felt it was aimed directly at him. He went back to Buenos Aires, apparently deeply changed. He even took 5 of his earlier, more materialistic books out of publication, described his spiritual journey after that as constant.
Quite a collection of stories, but despite all these testimonials, Padre Pio's reception within the church itself wasn't simple, was it? It was kind of complex.
Very complex, and sometimes quite contentious, actually. You had figures like Pope Benedict XVI, who reportedly called Padre Pio truly the man of God, high praise.
But then you also had Pope Pius XI. His view was different or evolved.
Right. Pius XI later admitted something quite telling. He said, "I have not been badly disposed toward Padre Pio, but I have been badly informed about Padre Pio."
Badly informed. That suggests maybe suspicion or negative reports reaching the top?
It certainly suggests that the information flowing upwards was mixed, or perhaps even biased against him at times. It shows there was significant caution, even skepticism, at the highest levels alongside the reverence.
Which kind of brings us back to how the source material itself tries to define what's going on here. What is a supernatural act according to these texts?
Well, the definition they seem to work with is something that is, 1, manifest to our senses, so observable, verifiable in some way.
Okay, not just a feeling.
Right. But 2, its nature transcends our ordinary conception. It's beyond normal explanation. Axiomatic, they call it. You can't break it down further using ordinary means.
And the source material points out, doesn't it, that people who deny these things often have a philosophical reason to. Their worldview, atheism, or naturalism would be shaken.
Exactly. It says their concepts might be upset by events that seem genuinely verifiable but defy natural explanation.
Okay, so if we try to pull this all together, these different types of conversion stories, the skeptic's secret bet, the Mason's hidden role revealed, the philosopher finding answers, the confessor's forgotten sins laid bare. The common thread seems to be this demonstration of intensely private internal knowledge that Padre Pio just shouldn't have had.
Yes, and that specific knowledge, hitting that specific person in their most private reality, seems to be the trigger, the undeniable thing that forces the change.
The source material, like with Del Fonte, argues that denial often happens a priori. People just dismiss it without looking closely.
Right, before verification.
But when the person in the story did look closely, when it happened to them, they felt forced to admit something extraordinary, something supernatural was happening.
That's the consistent claim across these varied accounts. The subjective experience was overwhelming proof for the individual.
So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, to sort of mull over is this. If the core evidence in many of these powerful stories rests on the revelation of a truth known only deep inside someone's own mind, a private memory, a secret intention, a specific forgotten detail, how do you weigh that? How do you personally balance the credibility of that kind of intense, subjective, yet verifiable to the person experience against the need for external objective proof that, the wider world usually demands? Where does that line sit for you?